Welcome back to Brothers in Boots. My name is Mike.
My name is Jeff.
And today we have John with us, and he is going to talk about his soon-to-be journey into bootmaking. What are we drinking today, Jeff?
Four Roses Small Batch Select. Never get tired of this one. One of the better deals. It's still readily available at a good price. Unfiltered, 103 proof. It's not special, but Four Roses has the potential for being great, but most of the regular offerings aren't. You've either got to get a single barrel pick or you've got to buy this.
Yep, that one's readily available in Kansas. It's got a nice heavy cherry note. It's always a good pour, especially very popular with people that are new to bourbon because it's a higher proof that gives you more flavor, but it doesn't give you that proof burn that a lot of newer drinkers are not accustomed to.
And because our rick houses only have 2 floors, they don't get that high in proof, even though it's barrel proof. So that combined with being a little softer, it's a little more approachable.
And their limited releases, their yearly limited release is always usually out of this world too, if you can find it.
That's true. I've got a 2014 open right now.
I think the last one I had was
a pour a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the last one I had was a 2021. I think it was a 21. I had it at a bar in Vegas called Herbs and Rye. It's a steakhouse bar combo, and they usually have nice allocated stuff across the top row. So I've only ever seen the one Four Roses Limited there, but they've usually got a couple of the P-Tax, a couple of the Wellers, usually a Blanton's Gold, if nothing else. Kind of usual suspects.
Okay. So, Don, what are your ideas? What are you thinking about? I mean, I've talked to you about it a little bit, but you're wanting to go a lot further towards not just MTO and experimenting and getting one-off things made for you, but you're wanting to go the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to start building myself and everything. For quite a while, I've been looking for other ventures to kind of get into. I was a mechanic for years, and I did private contracting in Iraq for a year, doing power generator mechanics and stuff like that. So I'm pretty mechanically or adept, I guess would be the word.
Inclined.
Inclined, yeah. I can weld and stuff like that. Also, I haven't got a lot of experience in it, but either way, I was kind of looking for something to get me out of mechanics and everything because I was just getting burnt. I don't like a lot of new cars. I don't know. I don't like dealing with a lot of the customers whenever it comes to, and the bosses also whenever it comes to the automotive industry and everything. Just because it's a lot of uninterested people that don't really know what they're talking about with the actual subject matter and stuff that you're dealing with and everything. And it's kind of, I would love to get into something that's a little more niche where people pay a little more attention to the things that they're, to the thing that they're buying and everything and the thing that I'm doing. And yeah. So yeah, that's kind of part of the reason, I guess, why I want to get into it. But
few people know better what you mean than I do as far as the whole automotive thing. Because I was a parts manager at a dealership for over 20 years and worked smaller joints before that. So I go out and I deal with all the shops. I deal with the shop owners. I deal with the shop techs. I deal with the techs in my own building. And I get to see all levels of it. And yeah, it sucks. But the people at the higher levels come from the car sales side. They don't actually even understand the bread and butter that's actually making them most of the money, despite not being glamorous. So, get it. Lots of disenfranchised people there.
Yeah. You also got a lot of corporate spillover shills too that doesn't help either.
Yeah, anytime in the hiring process, a lot of the times these days, people are just looking for people that have had management position before. It doesn't really matter what in or anything. It's just,
Yeah, that's the corporate mantra: plug and play. How do I take someone from here and stick them there without any kind of semblance of understanding that skill sets and experience matter? You need certain skill sets for certain things. Jeff's heard me talk about this ad nauseum. We're dealing with that in IT right now, where they want everyone to be very plug and play, where you can't just take someone that can do certain things to certain skill levels that have been doing it for over a decade. And some things are not shit you touch every day. Some things it takes 5 years to get enough scraped up experience in the system to be able to do it, versus like, oh, I'll just train them for a couple weeks, they'll be fine. Sure. Until you have your first problem. And boots are interesting from that perspective too, because there's a lot of core competencies in boots. So like, you could start in the beginning with learning the bottoming, the lasting, the hand welting, and all the stuff that isn't seen, that you can get away with doing the stuff that the customer will never see at the end of the day, which is also where some of your hardest work goes, that they never see. And then work up to uppers, patterns, making the last itself, so on and so forth.
No, I would love to be able to get out to like Spokane or something like that to actually like work at one of the shops and everything, and ran through the different stations and everything. But I don't really want to get into it too much, but I don't really see myself living in Washington. The same thing with a lot of the other makers, a lot of tanneries also. I would love that. Another main reason why I got into this is my family is looking into starting a little ranch and everything, a cattle ranch, and so I started looking into just different end products that could be made off of, just looking into different things that I could do as a side venture alongside of that's kind of related to the cattle and everything. And that's whenever I kind of stumbled across boots and everything and kind of just fell in love, just because it's something that's just intricate enough to do with it and everything that it'll keep me kind of in it. Like if it's something like, I will probably end up doing wallets and belts and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really see myself doing that as like as something that's going to satisfy me anyway. I need something a little more complex. So damn, I just lost my train of thought now.
Side gigs for farmers, I think, is pretty common.
Yep.
They got ebbs and flows. I mean, they work hard and they're busy, but they have ebbs and flows, and they control their schedule mostly. Mm. So, yeah, I see some side jobs of that. That makes sense.
Yeah, most of them do. So one of the ones that I've dealt with the most is a guy out in northern Idaho, and he does kangaroo braid stuff. So in the last video, you guys would have saw me showing a couple hat bands to show off a particular color, but those are made by Huey. He makes those. He does kangaroo braided edge banding for hats. He does it for books and a couple other things where he just has a workshop where he makes kind of this braided kangaroo products in that kind of old world ranch hand style, and does pretty well at it. I mean, those hat bands that I showed in that picture, they go between $215 and $460 depending on the complexity of the makeup. Yeah, the big micro strand wasn't there, but he's got like an 8 strand braid micro strand that goes at like $460. Those were all 4 strands there, I think, in the picture. I don't know if there's any 8 strands sitting there, but yeah. So I mean, like they definitely, they have some detail and stuff, and it's kind of around this time of the year right now where he'll be in a lull season, so he's doing a ton more of that work. That's why Cody has a lot of it coming
in. You wouldn't need to live in Washington State. I mean, Spokane's pretty close to Idaho.
That's why we laughed. Yeah, most of them live in like the Coeur d'Alene area. Yeah.
I think about half of their employees might actually live in Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's a similar story with tanneries, because like that, again, just researching like different end products with the cattle and everything, I just fell in love with leather and just the different tannages and everything, and just the ability to nerd out over all the different little aspects of, like, there's thousands of different like little minute micro inputs and everything that change the final result and everything, and it's all kind of like alchemy. Like, to me, it's wizardry, like, just because a lot of it's all just like you're plugging in things and kind of just hoping for a certain result, and it's like, oh hey, we got a different result, but this is kind of cool too. But so that's something that's definitely right up my alley. But
No,
again, back to like, not wanting to move to Washington State, like almost every tannery is in a place I wouldn't really want to move to either. Really, like
yeah,
you
yeah,
got
the ones that are
Chicago
left.
and yeah,
Milwaukee,
mm,
Western Pennsylvania. Yeah, well, and some of that's establishment, right? Because you notice all these tanneries that are left are all very old, and so there's an establishment in business. We've talked about this with Westco before, that they could really wind down a ton of their production and focus solely on filling Asian orders. They
yeah,
don't have a bunch of fancy new machines they got to pay off. They didn't just buy their building in the last 30 years. They've been there a long time. So for a lot of that, there's an establishment, which is probably why those guys are left. And one of the younger tanneries, which was Tasman, went out of business in 2020, and their big boom was really making stuff for the Origin guys. So I mean that is stuff that exists. You see the reemergence of Galoon, which did go out of business in the 90s. But you also have like guys like Herman Oak that have been in it forever and can't even update their website because they love. Well, we'll just blame that on the backwoods Missouri water. But
They don't need to.
Herman Oak is Tandem, Missouri, if people didn't know. Um,
yeah. No, that's actually one of the options that I'm kind of looking at because that's kind of where we're looking at property and everything for the little cattle ranch and everything. So
yeah.
Herman Oak's kind of on my radar for trying to get a job, like just a day job anyway.
Yeah. I mean, Herman Oak does cool stuff. They just make their ordering process extremely painful, far more painful than it needs to be. But
There's actually one tannery I'm really interested in for boots and everything, but I'd never see it for sale anywhere. The Expedition, the
mhm,
1881 Expedition.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get it from
The
Springfield Leather Company. They do sell it, and
They
you can
only have
probably
the 1881. I never see them have the Expedition, which is like just it's a
yeah,
little more firm of a, because
yeah. They only
like the
have it
1881
sometimes.
fucking
Yeah.
baggy. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, they have it sometimes, but it's definitely not one that's regularly ordered. Because once again, Springfield Leather Company is going to focus on small project stuff, and that's definitely not a small project leather. But it's interesting because you're right about the whole tanning thing. Is like they don't have a written down formula. A lot of those guys are playing it by feel and by ear. Each process they adjust what's necessary when they feel like something's off. There's no like I put 3.5 quarts of chromium salts, 3.5 quarts of pine tar, and 8.5 gallons of oak tannin. Here we go. That's really not how it works at all. So
You definitely want to tour tanneries.
Mm.
I used to go to Milwaukee as like a pilgrimage, ride the Harley out there and go through the museum, uh, go through the factory. So I keep on thinking, well, I need to go and go by Seidel. I haven't made the pilgrimage lately. And I blame the economy. I blame the fuel prices. I can't justify any more wasting fuel without thinking twice about it. And it's cut a lot of trips off as I go into political shit that I shouldn't. So, but I 4 hours from Pickett and Craig. That's not far. That's a nice drive or ride. But I haven't made either one of those trips work yet. I'm really curious what it's actually like in one of those places because I imagine it's probably not a place you actually want to work.
yeah, I imagine it's got to be a hard job.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with, like as long as it's something I'm very interested in. Like, and I know they wouldn't start me off like in that, but I would love to eventually work my way to the portion where you actually start having some say in like experimentation and stuff.
I don't know if
That
Herman
would be a
Oak.
ton of fun.
I don't know if Herman Oak is the leader
Yeah,
of the
no,
pack in
no,
terms of
that's
experimentation.
This is how much
I feel like
experimentation they've got going on. Zero.
Big old goose egger. But yeah, I mean it's definitely a interesting endeavor. I know that for a lot of people, and this goes beyond just like viewers of this channel, right? Like we've seen a big resurgence especially in the cowboy boot world and bootmaking. You know, when they used to do the Wichita Falls shows every year, which is the big cowboy boot show, it's their World Series. You know, the crowd looked very different 25 years ago, and it's like 5 times bigger now. Like, there are actual people that are much more interested in doing this on a regular basis. You know, 20 years ago, it was mostly artists that were trying to find a way to make their art work and be able to make money off their art, versus people that just wanted to make like a technically good boot. And you're seeing a little bit more of that now, but it's still a big industry of, you know, artists wanting to make their artwork, you know, trying to make a living by, you know, making their Bob Ross paintings, and their studio became, well, leather's cool too, let me make art with leather. It's also why I think
guess that's
sizing
probably
has
part of
gotten
it in
so
my
weird.
opinion also.
I think it's also why sizing's gotten so weird. You have a lot of very artsy people that aren't in tune with the more scientific nature and the more engineering mindedness of sizing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What you know what areas you want to focus on,
He means like style.
or what your plans are to try to narrow that down?
You mean like styles of boots and everything that I would like to, like whenever I get into the making, or like whenever...
like the area. How much do you want to farm out? How much do you want to do in house?
Oh.
How much do you want to use a machine for? How much do you want to use no machine for? Only hand tools. Where do you think you're going to get that knowledge, or do you already have it?
I'm definitely looking into probably taking the class from Schmidt's bootmaker. He offers a course making at least a single pair of boots over the course of a week and everything, with his guided supervision and everything, and him explaining everything to you the whole step of the way and everything, that's really cool. There's another
Sam's a great
maker.
guy. I bet that would be a great course.
Oh yeah, that's probably what I'm saving to, what I'm getting ready to do here. Like probably summer of next year is probably whenever I'm going to get into that.
How
and
long is that course?
It's a week long. Yeah, I want to say it's 6 days. It's either 5 or 6 days.
And you complete a boot in that 6 days?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. You pay for the cost of materials and stuff like that, and I forget how much money the actual course is, but I mean it's a decent amount of money. I mean it's about how much I was looking into sewing machines also and everything, and I could probably get like a decent used post bed machine and everything for the same price as doing the class and everything. So it's kind of in the back of my head as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's protecting his machines, because like he's got to teach you on them. He's got to make sure he's not breaking machines. He's got to provide you with certain hand tools. Yeah.
Comparably, I've found like 2 other bootmakers that do a similar kind of course thing and everything, and he's definitely the most reasonable on that and everything. They probably could get away with charging more, really, but
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not until you finish the course.
Yeah, I mean, you are close to a guy named Marcel Mistersan. He's, I think, near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He does a lot of courses. His are a little less hands-on and a little bit more technical. You're not going to finish a complete pair of boots there, but you might go make a pattern from scratch or something like that there. He does a lot of that, but that's going to definitely focus much more on like fine, like bespoke dress shoe wear, more so than like a cowboy boot or a service boot.
He's not Amish, is he?
No, he's from Hungary. He's from Hungary.
Yeah, I've seen him come up before looking for different courses and everything. There's a cowboy boot maker up in Montana. I'm having trouble thinking of the name right now. I think it's like Wilson or Babillon or something. I think it's Wilson Babillon actually. But their courses a considerable bit more expensive. Actually, he doesn't even have it listed, but he has in there that it includes the price of a pair of his boots, which start at $3,500. So it's definitely going to be more than that for the class and everything. So it's that's that's over double what Schmidt's charges right there. But it is twice the amount of time. The class is 2 weeks, 12-hour days instead of 8-hour days. And so I'm assuming he's getting a little more detailed into it and getting a little more hands-on and everything. But yeah, I'm still kind of weighing out my options with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, and it's well, and it's a twofold thing too, right? Because like it's one thing to be able to put together like a technically competent boot and getting the sizing piece down and that experience and being able to sell it. That's one thing, but it's another thing of being able to make a portion of your living off of it, right? So it's definitely difficult from that perspective. I know that, yeah, like I said, if you were down in like the Austin, Texas area, almost all those guys have apprenticeships where you'll come in like doing one thing, right? Like, so say you were to apprentice at like Texas Traditions, like they would start you off with bottoming. And once you had bottoming down, then they'd let you move to finishing. Once you had finishing, only at that point would they even let you start cutting upper patterns and design in like doing stitch lines for their in-house models of fancy stitch. They're already predetermined that aren't custom. And then, slowly work your way from that point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Most of these places, I mean, Sam's offering a course where you're going start to finish, so that's great. But most of these places that are a little bigger, most of these places are a little bit bigger. They're going to start you off in something not so interesting. They're not going to hire you unless they're sure that you actually plan on sticking around instead of just trying to soak up information to disappear as quickly as possible. And it's going to take probably years to work up to the point where you've done everything that you're interested in doing. Some of them don't even all cross train at all.
Yeah.
Some of them you might never end up working in every category, every zone, part of production.
Yeah, that's what I kind of fear with going into some of these different places of like just offering myself as like a apprentice to a shop or something, is that they might pigeonhole me into a certain thing or whatever, and it ends up being kind of I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think most places you'd get there because, like, some bootmakers would probably tell you that, trying to speed someone through in the course of a week, there's probably a strong chance that that you just couldn't absorb that much. Because if you talk to somebody like Gabbard from Creosote, he'll tell you that a lot of bootmaking is muscle memory. And it takes a certain number of hours doing each thing to really kind of get used to exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And like, he's talked about building, he's in the process of building the annex, but he's talked about having students out there at some point, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. But his setup would be different. It'd be like 2 weeks doing bottoming, 2 weeks doing finishing, then 2 weeks doing like the actual hand dyed process. He does the leather, then a couple weeks doing sewing and so on and so forth, to really kind of get the feel. And that would be also sending people back as they were there for a week, like maybe come a week at the end of every month. And when you would go back for the 3 or 4 weeks until you go out again, you would be doing a whole bunch of that by hand on your own wherever you're at, so on and so forth, to kind of get that muscle memory feel down. That's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, that was actually my initial plan, was actually just there's this company, Walrus Shoe. They have a set of lasts that don't really look like much, but it's like the smallest like set of lasts that I've found. Like it's a minimum order of 8 for the set and everything. Mm-hmm. So that would at least give me like something to work off of. I was thinking just getting some leather, getting some lasts, getting the tools and everything, and just kind of having at it and trying to build myself like 30, 40 boots.
Lisa Sorrell has a whole last library that you can order individual lasts from.
Yeah. I was also looking at her months and last.
She has the 55 too. She has the straight same 55 that Franks and them use. Yep. It's a Mexican made version, but
gotcha.
Pretty sure Nix buys all their new 55s from her because she can get the heel base plate or the full plate.
That's a price difference of like triple though, also going to her for those lasts, but I'm sure they're worth it and everything. I think
expensive, like $45 a piece, $45 per.
Oh, 40? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's keep in mind that's one length, one width, right? So like if you're ever doing any kind of runs, you're gonna need 6, 7 sizes, 4 widths of every one, right? So, and you can make do, right? Like if you have, as long as you have like a C, maybe a B, a C, a D, and a E or a double E, you can use buildups to fill a lot of those gaps and not necessarily need to have a run of every specific size. It depends on like how granular it gets from there. And you could also do like what Dennis from Custom Craft does, where he orders the last for each customer when they place the order. So your first order's got an extra $200 upcharge to order the last, and he gets his lasts from the company he uses in Germany, in made to measure sizes, so he doesn't use a standard width. He does it with the measurements you send him, so that he does very minimal buildups, and he doesn't have like run sizes per se. So that's like another option that exists. Now you can get that done through Lisa, but that's a lot more expensive, and I think there's a pretty sizable wait in there, because it waits until the next time that she does a order of last runs, since the lasts are actually pretty expensive to ship. She needs a minimum number to make that shipping worth it.
Yeah.
Because once again, they take up a lot of space. They're heavy. You almost spend more on the shipping and logistics of them than you do on the actual lasts themselves.
I guess there's other places that are fairly local too, right? There was something speed or something that's pretty close.
Yeah, Old Speed.
Up in PA.
Yep, Old Speed's like a 3 hour, or not even 3 hours. It's like an hour and a half for me actually. And yeah, I've been thinking about contacting him, and apparently he's the only builder in the shop and everything, and he's probably just got a bunch of new orders in and everything. So maybe he needs a hand or something. So yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a way of going about it.
Yeah.
Because
that could be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things too, because like something could be fun and enjoyable for you to do, but also not something that you could see yourself doing every single day as the primary source of income. So that would give you a very good feel for, is this something I'd really want to do for other people? Because that's the other thing that I would wonder getting into bootmaking, is the journey on figuring out your method for sizing, right? Because there's got to be a learning curve there, and there's got to be you have a certain amount of information that gets you to a point, and that'd probably be depending on the teacher and whatnot. But
that's what I'm thinking. For a good long while anyway, I'm just gonna have a stock set of sizes and everything, and I'm just gonna build what I build, and if somebody wants to buy it, they'll buy it. If they don't, then it's gonna sit on the shelf, or I'll wear it, or one of my friends will wear it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good way of thinking about it too. You could always just do standard last runs too. I mean, it's funny because on this channel we talk about the specialty widths, because me and Jeff just happen to be specialty widths. But there's plenty of regular. 95% of all men are supposed to be a D width. So
to start off with, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But I mean, D is supposed to be common enough that theoretically everyone should fall in there somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Is what everybody has been able to squish themselves into because they don't know any better.
Or double sock their way into.
I guess you're probably not going to learn anything with lasts from that speed guy. He's probably doing a lot more cookie cutter, but you'd certainly get a lot of experience in developing your muscles and whatnot for the actual production.
Well, the other cool thing.
Get some time behind.
Yeah. The other cool thing too is there are a couple neat options for bootmaking besides the sewing machine. The sewing machine's going to suck. Let's just all give into the fact that you're going to probably spend $2,000 on a sewing machine. And that's probably one of those machines you don't want to be a tinkerer on. You probably want to buy something that's not going to break down on you every time you try to use it. Because that is a thing. If you've seen any of the guys using the Rapid E's or the old Landis Aristocrat K's, you got to be a little bit of a tinkerer with those, or buy one that's been restored quite well. Because you don't want every time you go to do outsoles to be fucking with the machine, or it to fuck up a boot you have 60 hours into by screwing the outsole up real bad. So you could do, besides the sewing machine, you can always outsole stitch by hand. You're already going to last by hand. Gabbard from Creosote just put up a picture recently of all the hand tools he uses. I mean, that covers everything besides the sewing machine and the Gritzner hand crank. And Gritzner hand crank's a great option They have a different brand for the new one. It's Red, the company that bought Gritzner. But I mean, it's a machine out of Europe that you just crank and it punches outsole stitches. You do your couple settings and it goes.
The only one I don't think you can get away with is the sewing machine or the upper side.
Yep.
I don't think it makes any sense to try to do any of that by hand. I don't think it's worth even the bragging right, but it certainly is extremely time consuming, extremely hard on your hands.
I'm thinking to start with, you have to do that just to have some experience anyway. If I do like have to start on my own anyway and just get leather, get some lasts, and just start going at it and everything, then
yeah,
I think to start with, the best would not be invest in a sewing machine I might not end up keeping and everything, and just try and do everything.
Sewing machine will resell pretty easily, but there is an actual in between called a post machine, a hand cranked post machine. So that's like what Dennis from Custom Craft uses. Is he uses a hand crank post machine, which is just a post with nothing else around it. So it's just the post. When we say post bed, for those who don't know, it's a bed that's got the post in the center and a bed that's level to the top of it. So it's a flat sewing machine. But a post is one that's just a straight post, and they use it a lot of times for doing articulate curves, the inside of sleeves, putting patches on, stuff that you can't get on very easy is a post machine. And a hand crank is one that you just hold it there and you just twist with your hand or your foot. If it's the foot attachment still works, you just slowly move it through and feed it through. That's hand powered. Usually you can get those around $600 to $1,000. A lot of people use those for years. They're old singers that people use. That's a functional option. That's one that shouldn't need a ton of tinkering, even if it's in bad shape. So that's an option. I mean, Gabbard used a hand crank post for a long time, and then he got his tinkering machine, which he had to scream at every time he used it, and he eventually invested in a new Seiko, and he's like, it's the best investment I ever made. I don't spend 2 hours screwing with this machine every time I go to use it, and I use this machine every day. So, and like I said, there's also the Jukies too. Jukies make fantastic machines as well, so that's always an option as well. And the Jukies resell super duper easy.
You have a focus on which leathers that you want to work with? Do you want to be like trying to like hand color your leathers? Is that something that you would aspire to?
Eventually down the road and everything. I mean, since we're going to be raising our own cattle and everything, I would definitely love to eventually be able to take each one of our yearly harvests of anyway, I hate that word anyway whenever you're using this, but it's but either way, it'd be awesome to be able to take the hides from each year and everything that I have, to be able to use my own hides that have a tannery actually tan them for me and everything to my specifications, and be able to use my own hides like in the boots that I'm making would eventually is where I definitely want to go with it.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that become a reality for you. And I think it'd be really cool to be able to have hides tanned where they didn't take the brands out.
Yes.
Usually the brands are the first thing they take out. It's one of the imperfections. It's an area that doesn't actually end up going down the line. But if you get a pair of boots with your own brand on it to walk around in, I mean, how fucking cool would that be?
And I could strategically do the placement and everything, since it'll be my hides or my gals and everything. Yeah.
That could be really fucking cool. I mean, I'm not sure that anybody else would think it's very cool, but if I were you, I mean, that'd be about the coolest thing I could imagine.
A lot of people will probably see it as slightly morbid. But
well, you could always put the brand back in the hide after the fact too. Like, since you'll have access to the brand, once the finished hide's done into you could always just burn it right back in real quick.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much that brand would 100% survive the tanning process in the first place. Who knows, between all the shrinking and drying and stretching, if it would end up getting stretched out, or maybe look worse, or get like some nasty formations to it, or like deform it or whatever. I just thought.
I'm sure you don't want to use them in the quarters, that's for sure.
Well, and now once again, that we've talked about it a lot. American tanneries love to do the whole bends themselves, right? Versus like the Italian tanneries that use the double rumps or the double shoulders. Who knows if in the 3 to 5 years it's going to take for this is even close to a reality or longer, if the American tanneries don't swap to using double rump or double shoulder, which is going to affect where you'd have to put the brand anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So just one of those long-term future thoughts. It just seems simpler to stick the brand in after the fact. It's not as cool of a story, but I know I'm peeling back all the fun onion layers of Disney, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Where you go back behind the scene, you see Snow White with her head off, fucking smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Most of
But
this
no, I guess
Yeah.
But no, I guess to start off with though, like if I end up just having to like hand sew everything and like just go at it like just making boots like just by myself without any education or anything, I'll probably end up buying a bunch of different SB foot leathers just because of how cheap they are.
It's probably a good way of going.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, or focus
Practice
on
makes perfect.
Yeah, focus
Yeah,
on
that's a good
a
place to start.
real big hide. The SB foot hides don't tend to be super big. You can focus on like a great example that tends to be actually fairly cheap is like kudu. Kudu hides a lot of times are really up there in size, like 21 to 26 square feet. And, they're not super duper expensive, especially when you're getting, for whatever reason, kudu seems to be a lot more usable than a lot of the bovine hides. So I don't know. Once again, random thought that popped into Mike's head.
I feel bad about messing it.
So.
Well, Wicket and Craig is great for size. It's great for location, at least until you leave the area. But yeah, it's going to be expensive. SB foot's going to be a lot cheaper.
Yep.
For sure. Make a lot more mistakes without feeling so bad about it.
Arif and Sons
exactly.
Water Buffalo is another big one that's up there. Those are like between 21 and 26 square feet, and you can usually get them for like $130. A lot of times the OA Leather Supply has them on sale. You can get them like all the way down to 104 sometimes.
Yeah, I just recently discovered that all their prices are in Canadian. I thought it was all much higher than it actually is. Oh shit, never mind. That's in Canadian. Oh yeah.
That'll work.
Yep. I think there's a toggle on their website, if I remember right, like the bottom somewhere where you can switch the site over to USD prices. But yeah.
I thought they were just high on like everything for a little while. Like, wow, they were high for me, guys.
Yeah, no, it's all Canadian. I'd say Rocky Mountain is probably the highest of all the distributors, but they cherry pick the shit out of their hides. All their hides are some of the highest quality. I haven't had any issues with any of the hides they've sent. Who do
you think has the?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
No, go ahead.
Who do you think has the best SB foot hides though?
It's OA.
There's a bunch of different.
It's definitely OA. OA. I can't remember the guy's name. He cherry picks the crap out of the OA stuff, and he very clearly marks like what's the really high quality stuff, what's the medium quality stuff, and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
So, just for SB foot specifically, I think Tannery Row keeps some. Tannery Row's customer service is really nice, but they have sent out some pretty meh hides before. There has been hides that have been sent back. Yeah, so their customer service is good. They took the hides back. They did what they needed to do, but they not everything that's come out of there's been spectacular. And the nice thing is like Rocky Mountain will let you pick your hides ahead of time. If you talk to their sales department, they'll go back. Someone will get on a video chat with you and let you go pick the actual pieces out that you want. So.
But no, this is all also a part of the reason why I have like a 20 builds planned with different leathers from different tanneries and everything, is because I kind of just want to test out a bunch of different leathers and stuff and see which ones I kind of like and which ones I know it's going to be completely different with working with them and everything and actually making things out of them, but at least seeing the end product and everything, what I might want my name attached to and everything is at least until I do start having my own leather made and everything. And
yeah, no, I mean, the testing's a key part of it. Like when you make your first prototype, you're going to need to wear the shit out of that boot. And you're going to need to do dumb shit like go swimming in the Missouri River with them and get out and see how well they do. Like you're going to have to do the stuff that you would expect like the worst customer behavior to be to see how it happens, see how it reacts. Like, I'm going to go walk in some wet fucking concrete in these and see how well they clean up. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is going to be the expectation. I mean, depending on your price point, you could probably skip some of the more crazy things, but some of it's going to have to be stuff that's real, right? Like, there's going to have to be stuff that's done. And, you know, the first pair might not work out. You might be 3 prototypes into a model, 4 prototypes into a model. And, like, you know, with this one, this leather didn't work out. I want something stiffer temper, lighter temper. You want something thicker, thinner, so on and so forth. You never really 100% know going in, you know, exactly what's going to work out. I mean, I'm sure over time, most bootmakers have a pretty good idea and they can make good educated guesses and nail it with one prototype. But I guarantee you 9 out of 10 bootmakers' first prototype model that they made probably took 3 iterations, if not 4.
You mentioned all the small ones that you're thinking about, or all the ones with programs. We mentioned Flora, we mentioned Gabbard, and we mentioned Schmidt, and I guess Marcel.
Yeah. So, yeah, Marcel's got classes. Gabbard hasn't started classes yet. I don't know what the requirements will be. It's just something he's planning on for the future. With Lisa and Flora, you actually got to go stay there for a little while, and they do like a 3-month apprenticeship in the shop. That's not like a class. Like, Lisa kind of does do some classes, but they're generally at locations like boot camp kind of stuff. So that would actually be had to live in Guthrie for a couple months. That would not be a short-term commitment from that perspective, so that's probably not a viable one from that perspective. It's kind of the same thing with like Lee Miller and Texas Traditions, same boat. The people that go and do stuff there actually work there for a couple months. They just don't show up to do work like that. Now Lee does stuff where other makers do show up and build like a pair of boots over the course of the week, but that's not like training you on using the machines. That's going over like his specific process, his specific means, and so on and so forth. Because one of his most famous quotes is, you know, there's 20 ways to build a boot. You're going to find the way that works best for you. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong about those 20 ways, but you're going to figure out the method that works for you.
Oh yeah, so I was wrong about Wilson Boots. It's Schwartz Boots that has the boot school also in Montana.
Okay.
In case anybody wanted to look that up as well.
What about patterns? Do you have ideas for patterns, where you want to grab them from, or what kind you want them to be? Logger, engineer, field
for the most part,
moccasins.
I'm going to be sticking mostly to just lace up, probably to start with, mostly just service boot style, just to keep it simple and everything until I get my wits about me and get everything. Not really going to probably venture out too much to begin with. And I probably, it's doubtful I ever do engineering or engineer boots or any kind of pull-ons or anything, just because, I mean, unless I do get really good with like, I'd have to get very comfortable with being able to size people and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking more than likely I'm going to be going with like just a stock set of sizes and stuff like that to start with.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an experience thing. If you're not going to be a full-time bootmaker, sticking away from pull-ons is definitely a plus.
Yeah.
Hell, there's a couple full-time bootmakers I really wish would get away from doing pull-ons in the first place.
There's a couple, or there's one maker anyway have they even delivered any of them, or the cowboy boots that they were supposed to do?
I mean, those are
trying to avoid naming them.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about JK and the Ace.
I was talking about that too, actually.
Oh.
I just haven't even paid JK.
I heard that JK has, but JK isn't making those.
Yeah,
JK is
just importing.
They called up a factory somewhere in Mexico and said, make these things for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they're being made. I mean, I'd be shocked if they weren't, because JK doesn't have anything to do with it.
I don't know if they've delivered any.
Whenever they were first
made, the other one that you could have been talking about, they've made pull-ons. They've made a lot of pull-ons over the years.
Well, engineers like that. I was talking mainly about the cowboy boot that they're the Western boot that they were.
It's kind of the same idea, but yeah, I think they're out. I think they've completed some.
Yeah.
I think they're taking too much credit for the design.
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you who should be getting the credit, even though I know. But he's taking a lot more of that credit for himself than he should be.
I must be out of the loop on this one. I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about.
It doesn't help him much. We can keep you in the dark. It's all right.
It's
You to not know something once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those things. Like it's funny. Everyone talks about clinch designs and how innovative clinch and brass Tokyo is, when half those designs are old '60s Acme boots. Like their famous Pecco's boot, which is the roper that everybody loves. That's a ladies' '60s Acme boot. So.
Of course, I will tell you what it is. I just don't think we wouldn't need to tell YouTube what it is for sure.
Okay. We've talked about the Chippewa breakdowns too, about the makers that basically use straight from scratch old Chippewa patterns, literally cut Chippewas in half. So it's not uncommon in the industry for that to be a thing. As much as they want to talk about things have innovated and moved on, we're still making boots the same way we were in the 1940s. We've just made the materials more space age.
Cobblers. Have you considered going to work for any cobblers?
Not yet, just because we've the plans for moving have been put off just a little bit. But since we were planning on moving, I haven't really been looking into anywhere near here, like doing anything for the moment. But since it's looking like it's going to take, or I'm definitely going to be contacting Old Speed probably here soon and seeing if he needs any help or anything like that.
You're near DC, right? Are you really far out of DC? I don't remember.
It would be about like an hour and a half drive for me to get to DC.
It's pretty far. Because I know there's a Cobbler Sonny in DC. There's Beato's Leatherworks in Trinity Falls, Virginia, which is even farther. And then there was one other guy that's in that area that's real popular. But I know Cobbler Sonny is closer to the Baltimore area than he is the DC area, because he's close to where Dale's at.
Yeah, I was about to disagree with you, because I wouldn't call Sonny DC. I'd call him Baltimore, and
no,
I'm not positive, but I want to say he's in like Ellicott City.
Let me just Google it real quick. I'm not 100% positive off the top of my head.
He's somewhere in the suburbs of Baltimore.
Yeah, he I know he's fairly close to Dale, but it's still a little bit of a journey. Let me see. I've got him here. Give me a second. I'll figure it out.
I knew that Dale was in the Baltimore area, but I did not. Yeah, he's Ellicott City. So Ellicott City is southeast. Yeah, southeast of Baltimore.
So that's definitely closer in DC.
He's incredibly close to me. Matter of fact, I think I'm fairly in the middle between Cobbler Sonny and Beto. I would say that Beto is actually in Fairfax. So I mean, he's seriously just the Virginia side of DC.
Yeah, the town's called Trinity Falls. Let me see what the biggest thing next to that is.
I always thought of it as being Fairfax.
Yeah, Falls Church is the biggest close thing to it.
Falls Church, that's right.
Yeah, Falls
Church is right next to Fairfax. They're all the same place.
Yeah, Falls Church, Arlington, Fairfax, McLean, Dunn, Loring, and Merrifield are all kind of in that area.
Yeah, so I'm kind of dead in between the two of them. I'm pretty close to both. I don't think Beto is going to take on any apprentices or help.
No, he's
decided
to
turn it into a profit profit thing.
Yeah,
Like
he's had
Schmitz
people.
did.
Yeah, he's had people in there that have come and worked with him for like a month or two at a time. He's done it a number of times before. He had an actual worker there who just helped him do stuff named Noah for a while. But yeah, he's had a couple different cobblers over the years come in and work there at his shop for like a month. I don't know if there's like a fee or a charge or anything about it. I have no clue, but he's definitely done it before. He's done YouTube videos on it too.
Well, you're pretty close to Sunny. Of course, you'd have to
Yeah.
go across that bridge,
Yeah.
which isn't cheap and always has traffic.
There.
Chesapeake Bay Bridge, hell of a bridge.
Yeah.
No, it's not the one that got taken out by the tanker.
Someone would have asked it in the comments if you didn't say it.
I do kind of think about that every time I do cross the Bay Bridge now, though, but it's completely different kind of a.
It amazes me the amount of people that are afraid to cross that bridge. They do have drivers that drive people across that bridge for them because they're afraid to do it. Meanwhile, when I get onto the bridge, I increase my speed and floor it by about 30 miles an hour because I know they can't do radar on the bridge. So I just fly. Who are these people that are afraid? I guess they're afraid of me.
I like driving across it whenever there's like fog and everything. And you go up above the fog and you get to look down at it and everything. It's pretty cool.
Cool bridge. Have you gone across the Bay Bridge tunnel?
Oh, yeah, I've done that one. But, yeah. And it was just recently. I've gone my whole life without doing that. Yeah.
That shit's crazy. You familiar with that one, Mike?
Nope.
It's, what is it, like 10 miles long? I think it's got two tunnels in the middle of it. It's got a rest stop in the middle of it. It's fucking nuts. I've been across it. I've been across it 4 or 5 times, and none of them in the last 15 years. So I'm not remembering it clearly, but that is definitely one of those modern marvel bridges.
And the bridge is like barely even off of the water or anything, but I guess the current's just so strong through there that like there was a car that like fell off recently and everything like that, and it was gone immediately. Like they couldn't find them, like even though it's like the water's like right there below, like it's like 20 feet maybe. But so it definitely would have been survivable. I guess the current's just...
I guess I'm not quite close enough to get it in my news. I under exaggerated by quite a bit. The Bay Bridge Tunnel is 17.6 miles long. Fucking nuts.
Only thing we have anything like that around here is they have the Hutchinson salt mines where they save all those movies in, where the movies get archived to and put underground in the salt mines, and you can camp down there. You just can't have a fire.
This thing is right at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, so it's like the widest point. It, like military shit. It's like Hampton Roads area.
Makes sense. How do you have a modern marvel if you pick the most inconvenient place to try to cross?
There isn't a convenient place. I mean, we were talking about the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which is, how many miles is that? But that's at a narrow point, and there's a ferry between the two.
Yeah.
Chesapeake Bay is an enormous bay. How long is the bridge?
I'm sure it's long.
I want to say it's 4 miles.
Which is funny because you have all the islands outside of Seattle that they use the ferry for, and they've never bothered to build a bridge across it at all.
6 miles, 6.5.
Oh, wow. That was off.
Which everybody around here, Mike, is extremely familiar with because the Eastern Shore is like separated from the modern world. I mean, there's like nothing there but basically chicken farms, two small towns, and Ocean City, Maryland. So everybody from Baltimore and DC goes back and forth to Ocean City across that bridge countless times for summer.
Yeah.
Isn't that where Tony's
Strategically,
at? Oceanside or Ocean City? Isn't Tony over there?
Yeah, yeah, he is. He's pretty much Ocean City. I think he might live in Delaware and works in Ocean City, but they're all like right there.
No.
And I'm not trying to bust on the Eastern Shore. I do respect it. I went to school at Salisbury, so I spent 3 solid years on the Eastern Shore. So I'm, cool area. I mean, I like being away from everybody.
It would be really horrible in any kind of emergency situation there, because there's 2 bridges and then just the northern passage are the only ways that you're getting out of here.
So what you're saying is when the bombs start dropping, be the fuck out of there.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why we're moving, I guess. Not really the main reason, but that is.
I don't think anybody want to bomb there, as far as that's concerned.
No, but just like
like I said, the mouth of the Chesapeake is there, and the mouth of the Chesapeake gets you to the Potomac. So if anybody's running inward for the war, they're coming up the Chesapeake to Baltimore and ignoring the Eastern Shore, or they're coming up the Potomac to DC and also ignoring the Eastern Shore. So it's probably a pretty safe place to be.
Usually infrastructure's a target,
government though. They block us off.
Yeah, well, there's that part too, but I'd say most foreign invaders are just going to strike any infrastructure that's easy and convenient. Because once again, as the ship that ran into the bridge in Baltimore proved, you don't need to do that much damage to basically make the bridge inoperable.
Yeah.
And then proceeded to drive the rest of the way through it.
Hey, that thing crumpled was crazy.
Yeah.
So...
And I was up late that night, so I actually happened to catch the news like as it was happening. It was like 3:00 in the morning or something when it happened, and I just happened to be looking at my phone when the news came across, and I'm like, "Wait, what? What just happened?"
That was a thing that did happen.
Yeah.
Crazy. And of course, nobody's really responsible for it because they're in some other country and they don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
You can only be held to so much responsibility, and it was very little.
Capped tiny amount. I mean, it really makes you wonder. It's just like with this whole dock worker situation recently. Like 3 days, you're losing so much money. Oh, 60% increase. Please come back to work. How much fucking money are you making? And have you been making that like it only took you 3 days of pain to be like, we don't want to lose any more money? Because you're clearly still profitable. You wouldn't just have agreed to something that wasn't going to make you profitable.
That Key Bridge was 1.6 miles, so it wasn't real short.
No.
Crumpled like crazy. What's it going to take? 20 years to rebuild it? At a cost that nobody can afford.
The last part is the key there. That's 100% the case. At a cost nobody can afford. That's generally how it goes. But circling back to boots. So yeah, I mean, like, seems like you got a path forward. I mean, like I said, this is something that we have been hearing from a lot of people recently. I do think it's probably about 3 years later than it should have been, just because, like I said, we've talked about it in one of the episodes, but the golden age of boots is coming to an end, which for a niche maker isn't so much of a bad thing. I'm sure Gabbard would love to look at his waiting list and be like, man, I really wish this was 2 years shorter. Probably makes him rethink not raising his prices by a decent chunk about 2 or 3 years ago.
I think these guys that are keeping shorter lists are smarter.
Mm-hmm.
If you've promised something and then prices go up after that promise is made, you're losing money.
Yeah. Well, he has the materials for all the stuff. The issue really just becomes, a 4-year waiting list is a long thing. Lots of shit could happen. But what if he fucking broke his hand?
You keep it all on hand, though. Lisa limits her list. I think it's smart.
Well,
Lily's limiting his list.
Yeah, she limits her list by the price, though. She doesn't stop people from placing orders. It's just as the orders keep coming in, she just raises the price. Like, she doesn't have a hard stop on her books. Flora has a hard stop on her books. Flora, at 6 months, will stop taking orders until she's 60% caught up. But Lisa just uses price to limit her list. And it does clearly it does a very good job at that. I mean, she's not doing bootmaking, but she's also focusing heavily on the distribution side of the business that she's doing too, while also making boots, because she's still finishing at least a pair a month.
There might be some, like, a good old cobbler somewhere in like Easton or Salisbury or something. I don't know exactly where you're at, but
there used to be one in Easton for a good long time, but yeah, he retired years and years back. Before I ever even got into any of this, I remember going to his shop once as a kid and everything, and then I asked my parents about it, and he's been shut down for years and years.
that's a shame, because that is one of those areas where you could accidentally come across an old school dude that knows how to do everything, but yet is slow enough that he has time for you.
That would have been a good setup and everything. Yeah. Especially since he sold off all his equipment and everything after and everything else. I could have gotten a hold of some equipment and everything.
That's how a ton of people get it when old shops are closing. And that's kind of a lot of these guys' retirement plans, is to selling it to one of their students. Like, Lee Miller bought Charlie Dunn out of the business when Charlie was ready to be done. I'm sure with all the students Lee's had go through there, he's hoping Charlotte, the current one who's been there the longest, I'm sure he's hoping at some point Charlotte will be willing to buy him out. Ray DeWart in Guthrie, Oklahoma is dealing with the same thing, except the problem is none of his students had the money to buy him out. That was kind of like his retirement plan, his 401k. But, buying a custom cowboy boot business is difficult for an investor to come in and drop, $300,000 to $500,000 and then have to now employ bootmakers to make them. It unfortunately kind of needs to be bought by a bootmaker. So, and, 10 years ago, there would probably be people interested in that were not from the boot world interested in buying a boot company / custom boot shop. I think that ship has sailed. Not to mention there's been certain brands that shall not be named that has not gone the best for. Maybe don't put metal in your fucking heel stacks. Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So fancy.
Or something.
I'm gonna go with the or something. So, but I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, you had a certain point in time that there would have been an investment. But I mean, when we talk about the boot industry, like, outsourcing is the biggest thing. Chinese copies and outsourcing, it's the biggest thing that plagues the industry, because, like, you could go pay someone to design you a boot, make you the last, make you the pattern, and then send you on your way with their 6-figure paycheck. And then now you go and get the patterns graded by somebody like Marcel Mr. Sand, who specializes in that. You contact Jones and Vining or any of the other last makers, send them your main last, tell them your proportional grading method of how much you want each full size to go up by, so they can divide for the half sizes and get a run of last made. And then send it over to Spain or Indonesia or China or whatever, and be like, make me a run in these leathers. You could 100% do that. And that's essentially, Caswell's on the channel. If you watch the interview, that's what Caswell does. Yeah. He makes a pattern, has someone go over it, gets help with it, gets it professionally graded. Same thing with his last, sends it over to Spain, gives the company the specifications, they do a run of them. That's essentially exactly what Caswell does. So a rich person could get into it just by having, like, approaching somebody like Gabbard and being like, yo, design me a last and a boot. And whatever price Gabbard hands them, seeing if it's worth it or not.
I really love Caswell's model. That would be a dream for me. I don't have the ability, at least not yet, and I'm getting older, and I'm going to have to face the fact that I'm never going to have such an ability as far as making a pair of boots myself, start to finish. But as well as he's positioned himself and accomplished something that is really fun and really cool. he's getting to play with patterns, and he's getting to decide the leathers, and doing custom runs, and having good builders white label it for him.
Yep. And Kevin works his day job in distribution, so he's super familiar with like the specific pieces that you need to know to make the distribution part work. So that kind of gave him an edge up. But yeah, he kind of found the perfect way to kind of fill that gap. Now, like I said, with the golden age of boots really coming to an end, who knows? Maybe Kevin finds it's not worth it here in a couple of years, and that ship's kind of rode out. You know, we've had the Roy boot was really the beginning that led to the big resurgence of the Alden Indy, and then, you know, by 2016 we were moving in a good direction. You know, it was an industry that was thriving, and then Rose Anvil cut a boot in half in 2020, and it went kaboom, and the top came off this motherfucker. And, you know, now we're definitely declining. You know, someone pointed out in our last video, I think it was specifically about Nick's, has like been running a constant sale on something since 4th of July. I think that's what the comment said.
Well, I don't remember that, but
Let me see if I can find
what I
it.
thought you were going to be talking about, and what I know is true, is they did a Mocktober sale.
Yeah.
So they've had their Mockto on sale for a whole entire fucking month.
Yeah, let me see if I can find
Unless
it.
they called it Mocktober and cut it off shorter, and if so, I apologize. I didn't go to their website and look.
I didn't
But
either.
they're calling it Mocktober, and they're calling it a sale, so I'm thinking they've got a month-long sale. And at the moment, they've got an exclusive on a one-piece Mockto on a MTO boot.
Yeah,
So Frank gets theirs up. So why would you put a sale on that for a month unless you're having problems?
I almost bought one of the Pacific.
Yeah, so I'm looking right now. They've had 10%. So just since our video in the past 5 weeks from our video, which was a week ago, they've had 10% off patina leathers, 10% off Mocktos, and they also had a 10% off MTO option as well. And then someone else made a comment about just a little bit farther under there, talking about that as well, talking about was basically every time they put something on sale, half that stuff would end up in their waiting on that leathers instead, and they would run that entire leather out of stock. So
I missed what you said a second ago, John. What did you say?
So they almost got me on that sale and everything, because like you could compound it also. So like during the MTO portion of it and everything, like you could start an MTO boot and that was 10% off, and then just choosing the Mockto dropped it another 10% and everything. So
that's fucking mad.
I almost did it. The Pacific Wax Flesh Show was really kind of interested in that. Either that or the light natural Dublin.
I do like the light natural.
I
Dublin.
love light natural Dublin. Do they have that in right now?
Yeah, they have that in British Tan, I think, Dublin. I want to say.
Yeah.
Love the light natural Dublin.
But, you know, like I said, this is also like the competition in this bootmaking space, right? Whereas, you know, you constantly have like everything people are doing to try to cheapen the product. Because like I said, the closer you can get it to $350, the more of them you're going to sell. And like that's the magic plan. How do we get to $350? Whether that's specific, you know, going with Lafargue, needing to sell a certain number, needing to do X, Y, or Z, cheapening on these parts, focus on this country's labor with this country's leather, with this country's outsole, with this country's midsole, so on and so forth. Like that's kind of the tricks you have to do to get down to certain price points. I mean, we even see that becoming problematic with brands like Bourbon, where their price has gone up quite a bit. Now they've made their construction methods significantly better. They've improved the leathers they're bringing in by a lot, but it's also brought their boots up to the $450 plus range. So, I mean, you know, as you get more and more steps away from Thursday, you know, start eliminating potential value as customers. And no one wants to do what Port and Leather did a couple of years ago, where they tried to talk about how great their boots were at half the Thursday price.
Speaking of Thursday, did you see the release? I think it was a recent, like today release, but they've just come out with a tennis shoe with a full leather midsole that looked so much like a pair of Air Jordans that
Oh yeah, they had a shinky natural
they're
shell.
gonna get sued.
They had and that's been out for a little while, but they sold that in shinky natural shell that actually looked pretty good. But yeah.
A red, white, and black shinky shell tennis shoe?
No, that red, white, and black was one of the black label offerings, but they did that one in natural shinky shell too. But it wasn't the red, white, and black. It was just all shinky shell for the boot. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was a 3 different color black label run, and it actually came out a little while ago. It wasn't just that. It's been out like 3-4 weeks.
I didn't see the photo till today.
No.
And
I know what you're talking about. And yes,
yeah,
it's literally missing airwear.
Right off the bat. A, lawsuit, and B, why would anybody want something with Thursday written in cursive, super large across the side?
No. Well, it's because they can't put airwear on it. Then they are going to get sued. Well, that's sued faster, I should say. Sued faster, I should say. Well, that's always a thing, but the problem is they're too hip and modern of a brand to do that. It's not possible. Got to be hip and cool, Jeff.
I want a pair anyway.
I can't believe they brought in enough shinky shell to get shinky prices down low enough.
No easy feat.
No, you were 100% correct on that. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of it to bring up for people. It's funny. Their ads are super easy to navigate. Their fucking website is junk. Here we go. It's called the Showtime. Yeah, right here. Shinky natural shell.
Yeah, that's the same boot.
Yep.
Actually, doesn't look too bad.
Here's the.
They didn't write their name in cursive across it.
Well, there's your one there. Yeah, it's all that same Showtime line. Yeah, it came out a little while, and somehow they were able to get the Shinky natural shell down to $5.25 a pair. But I mean, basically every size is out of stock. No, they have one left in a 10. You can buy one in a 10 or an 11 or 11.5 or a 12 or 12.5, 13. Looks like their bigger sizes are in stock. So
it's
actually got a Vibram too. No, it's not. It's not bad at all.
Pinky is not bad looking at all.
No.
The
only thing I don't like about it, I don't know if it's much of an arch. The only thing I don't like about it is I'm gonna zoom in on it. They did the stupid punched toe cap.
Well, you got to if you're trying to do a Nike Air.
Not in fucking Shell Cordovan, you don't.
You're trying to do a Nike Air, you do.
Not in Shell Cordovan. Fucking Jordan wore shitty patent leather. He didn't wear no fucking, high-end shinky shell. You can skip that shit.
5 Tanneries color looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, I 5 Tanneries. I'm really hoping they didn't actually source like every part of that boot from a fucking different tannery. I did see that.
I don't know what it means, but it looks cool.
Yep.
I can't believe they did Shinky Cordovan.
Yeah, their contender boot, they did the dark brown Shinky shell too.
Yeah, I was tempted by that too.
It just, once again, why would you take a sleek boot like that and put a fucking lug sole on it? Put any other sole on it, please, dear God.
Oh, well, if I did buy that, I mean, I'm not, because I need the width and I need the arch, so it doesn't exist. But if I were to buy that boot, first thing I would do is sand it down and put a secondary outsole on.
Oh, yeah. And shit, if you're going to do that, you can just add your arch in there.
I don't see how I would.
Oh, I'm
talking about removing it.
No,
I'm talking about sanding the trim underneath so I can glue the secondary sole.
Knife straight in, add your arch piece in, fucking stick the filler back in, sand it flat. No, I'd be adding the arch in real fast in a hurry. We'd make it a coffin spot for it real fast.
And it's a good looking shoe. Mm-hmm. Shoe boot.
Yep.
Shoot.
A shoot. Working yourself into a shoot, brother.
I mean, bravo. If I was wearing a hat, hats off. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean their sneaker stuff is subtly getting a lot better over the years. Like they're figuring out what everyone's basically asked for and trying to find a way to deliver, and it's kind of sucks that they're the only people trying. I mean, if Goro and Crown Northampton could figure out the logistics of getting people stuff easier and not so expensively, like they could make a big splash over here. But the logistics of a Goro pair or a Crown Northampton pair are just too much with getting like the sizing differences figured out. The fact that nobody over there can help you, like the custom width adds like a 4+ month wait to your shit. It's just too much.
It's even leather lined.
Yeah.
If it had an arch and if it had the width, those are two big ifs.
I don't know. I seem to be able to make bowling shoes work without extra width, going just a size big. I mean, I
guess
don't
when it
spend
comes
more
down
than
to
2
it,
hours in it, but
I guess when it comes down to it, I still would rather have a monkey boot. But damn.
yeah.
For a tennis shoe. Something that looks like a tennis shoe.
Yeah.
This has been a hell of a sidetrack. I appreciate it. I really apologize to everybody who's still with us.
I mean, well, this is the reality of being a bootmaker. Though, like, this is what you contend with. This is that level. Like, this is something that's got to always be in the back of your mind. Even if you're a completely custom maker, you've always got to be tapped into what everybody else is doing and have a decent idea and making sure you're filling market needs. Because here's the thing, for the average regular consumer, Thursday is the gap they're looking to fill, something slightly better than Thursday. How do you get somebody from Thursday to fucking creosote prices? Literally, they have to fall in love with looking at your product, and like 10 minutes of reading will tell them, okay, so there's a bunch of benefits to this, but they've got to fall in love with that eye-catching piece of the product first, right? It's got to stick out in their mind. And that's like the polarizing thing about creosote is his designs are wild, and for a lot of people, they're too wild. And it takes time before you get to that next step. Not that anyone's first boot should ever be a pair of creosotes. That's literally the worst fucking thing you could do. Because at that point you won't even really know what you like in boots because you haven't tried nothing yet. But like that's where the journey leads, right? And being tapped into this stuff and like knowing these markets is a big part of this. Like it's just how bootmaking goes. Because here's the first thing that happens, right? Let's take a boot like the Fiction from Creosote. It's the one that's got the backstay stitch across the vamp with the crown, right? It's this pull-on cowboy style boot, no buckles. It's still using an engineer template and last, and it's just got that backstay stitch on the front. It's very unique. Man, there was someone in fucking in the Netherlands copying that shit within 3 months of it being released for like $1,500. Like right off the fucking hop. Didn't even take 6 months for someone just to straight up from the pictures look at it and make their recreation of it. And it's not even a super cheap recreation. And I'm sure China's already got a fucking knockoff copy they've been putting out since that boots will be was announced. Well, it went on sale 2 years ago in December. So I'm sure some motherfucker because you got like Crush on Retro that people have been talking about, which is like Tahura's the people that work with Tahura, that seems like they're finishing some of the stuff in America, but Abe seems to be doing a lot of the work on them. But there's another one that someone sent me recently.
Cruise something?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. There's another like one that's straight up Chinese copy, and that someone sent me a picture of the box, and it's like it's got fucking Steve McQueen on it. This is copyrighted. You can't just do that. And it's like, well, they're fucking China. They don't care. Fuck was the name of that brand?
I'm not finding it
as
fast as I want to.
Yeah.
Cruise Lux?
Crush Deluxe. That's what it is. Crush Deluxe. That's the one. Yeah. I'm still searching for the website, but I'm pretty sure it's like Crush Deluxe. Crush on Retro. That's what it is. Crush on Retro.
Oh.
Sorry, I mixed both names together. The Abe one is like Crux Deluxe. This is Crush on Retro. I called it Crux Retro or something. It's Crush on Retro, and they're straight up Chinese. Here, I'll give you guys a copy of this. But like these are literally fucking Chinese copies of everything.
I haven't gotten to the CRUX Crux is in capitals and deluxe is not. And they make it seem like it's one word. And I haven't gotten to the bottom of exactly what it is, but it seems like some American dude with a made up name is working with Tahura and one of Tahura's big builders, and they're trying to act as if it's American made, even though it's mostly made overseas.
Yeah. Once again, this is parts of being in the boot industry. All of this stuff like continually adds up. Like this is the thing. People stealing your designs, people stealing your patterns. Like this is the main thing that you're gonna fight. You've got to do something that they can't just simply copy.
And that baseball pattern looks cool. Have you seen this, John? Do you know what we're talking about? Isn't the best. Find a better photograph or not? Okay, yeah, this will work. Here. Oh, you're only going to see it for a flash second though because of your connection. But, all right, look at your screen. It'll pop up really fast. They put a baseball glove stitch through the middle.
Oh, I
really
do remember this. Dale reviewed these. Here, the viewers would be able to see this on the screen. So,
I don't know. I did. Yeah, I saw these.
Yeah. Dale reviewed these. If you've seen Dale's video, he did a review on these.
What do
I did watch his review. It was a good video.
Where do you guys draw the line at for copying?
Well,
I do plan on kind of being the shit out of this backstay.
Well, I mean, so let's be honest. Except for like Gabbard's fiction boot, which there's a ton of shit done that I've never seen anybody do before, and maybe it's for good reason. Who knows? He only has the 2 or 3 prototypes he's made for himself, and only a couple of his family members have worn them because those haven't gone out to anybody yet. So maybe there are things in that boot that might not work out the best. The majority of stuff you see in boots, another boot has done before. When we say copying in boots, we're talking panel for panel copies where the panels are identical, or you've done something like, oh, the original had 2 stitch lines. I have 4 stitch lines. Mine's different. It's still a fucking panel for panel copy. Like all the placements are the exact same. All the ratios are the exact same, so on and so forth. There's one particular Imperium model that's very obviously a nail shank copy, and it's called the JoJo because they use a different number of eyelets. They don't even use in every other boot. Like it's literally a perfect copy of the number of eyelets that Gabbard uses because Gabbard uses a really heavy like 9 eyelet or 11 eyelet setup in the nail shank.
Yeah.
And they don't do that for any other boot. And and the JoJo is the only one they specifically do that on. So it's and it's a panel for panel copy. But so when we talk about panel for panel, exact ratios, exact stylings, remotely close or like slightly altered stitch line that's just like I have 2 stitch lines, they have 1, I can't be the same. That's what we mean by copying. Is we really mean like panel for panel. Tried to make a last the exact same like because here's the thing, that backstay you showed, everyone's done a backstay like that at some point. Like there might be a couple unique things.
Actually,
yeah, I remember what you're talking about because we called that one out in the video.
Because it's actually like it actually seems like a way to actually effectively save on leather like cuts and everything, because like the actual side panels of like the boot don't go all the way back to the backs, all the way to the back or anything. Like it's
it's a combination heel counter cover and backstay cover or saddle stitch cover. But
only it's to the inside of the the quarters instead of to the outside.
Yeah,
which is just very weird.
I have mixed feelings on the one piece counter slash backstay one piece. On when I initially see it, my initial thought is, oh my God, that's fucking awesome. But I kind of think that's the part of my brain that wants something different and exclusive that said no to for so long. But I'm initially just, wow, that's fucking awesome. But as I thought about it, and as it was available to me to choose, I actually realized I don't actually want it. It doesn't actually look as cool. And it's not going to be as easily rebuildable if you need it. I mean, this, for example, my Black Monkey, that's got a lot more stitching to it. It's got a lot more personality to it. To me, that seems to actually look better than the one piece does. But again, it's preference. But the one piece seems to have less personality to it.
Yeah, it's just more
to me, it all depends on the rest of the design of the boot also. Like if it's a plain toe, like I like a single piece backstay if it's a plain toe, and only if it's a plain toe really for me.
Boondocker.
Or it could be a mock toe, I guess, also. Yeah. But if there's a cap toe, I definitely prefer a multi-piece backstay setup and everything. I don't know, just proportionally, like.
Well, it's got the same pattern loudness, right? Like, because basically a single piece mock toe is just a plain toe. It just has a tiny little bit of structure added to it, right? So proportionally, if we take the golden section in mind, which is the perceived eye of beauty and nature, it makes sense for something like a plain toe to be a boondocker, because that's what a boondocker is. It's a rough out plain toe single piece backstay service boot. So yeah, it makes 100% sense. But once again, that is the caveat, right? Is because you don't want to be, especially as a single maker, you can't be super duper custom. You can't make every boot a one-off unless you're going to charge like $3,000 a pair. You're going to have to limit some of the customizations. That's just reality.
As far as your question of what do we consider copying or too far? I don't know. I got two answers for it, and one of the answers I'm not clear on. The first answer is, for me personally, selfishly, it doesn't really matter to me because you're paying for fit, you're paying for quality, you're paying for the way that boot fits your foot because it's custom made for your foot. And when you're talking about that, it doesn't matter how many boots look the same. You're buying what fits you best. And from that respect, I don't care if everybody's copying everybody else. I want to buy what fits me best and looks like what I want it to. But the second answer is the one I'm not clear on, which is just generally speaking, if I had a normal foot and I didn't need an arch, I don't know. I think it's panel for panel, like Mike said, because there's only so many choices. There's only so many ways that you can put a piece of footwear together, and they're just naturally not going to be that different.
But when you figure out the cool thing, boy, do some of them personalities scream out loud and clear.
Some of them do.
Like the wingtip.
Baseball glove stitch really
it takes a monkey and puts something unique enough to it that someone's like, huh, I could have a monkey in that too. Because you don't normally split the leather right there. Like they've straight up split the leather in a spot you don't normally do it. So
yeah, I didn't get.
In a way, it's actually dumb, but it looks cool. I mean, they literally. I mean, they put together a boot, and before they stitched it together, they sliced.
Yeah, they
stitched back together.
They literally split the quarters apart in a spot that they don't need to, and baseball stitch it back.
Doesn't it go like straight through like the counter and everything, the heel counter?
Oh yeah, it's across the entire boot. Yeah,
counter, which I don't like.
I didn't get a good look at it whenever it flashed up on the screen, but if it's the one I'm thinking of, yeah, it goes like straight through the heel counter.
Yeah, the heel counter cover's on the inside, but yeah, it's straight through the heel counter. I mean, you can see where they stitch the heel counter cover internally on it. Yeah, they straight up just take the quarters and split them there, stitch them back together, and probably last just like that.
Now, if that internal counter was internal to the point where you didn't see any stitching on the outside, yeah, I'd love to see that stitch go all the way through there.
No.
But they have a stitch for that internal counter, and it doesn't. It looks weird.
Yeah, they probably don't have a traditional liner they can stitch it to. Is probably why. Because to do that without stitching through the outside, there's a reason. Like even the Alden Indy, you can see that stitch on the outside is you need a pretty heavy duty liner to pull that off on.
Possible though.
No, it's 100% possible.
I mean, you look at the White Steven.
Uh-huh.
White Steven doesn't show it.
Yep.
And the boot that I'm about to have made doesn't show it. Of course, the one I'm about to have made is truly a one-piece cut. I can't fucking wait.
Good old hole cut. But yeah,
I mean, I guess that's something I can do for also, instead of getting a sewing machine, is try and just go for a couple hole cut designs.
that's a thing too. I mean, like, so they're still you still have to put the tongue on and stuff, but yeah, I mean, hole cuts are an interesting way to save on stitching. The downside to them is they waste a ton of extra leather. So
it's easier said than done, and yeah, it takes a lot of planning and waste leather.
Uh-huh. Like you need big pieces. Yeah, no. I mean, but these are important things to talk about. Like this is where like the nitty gritty of bootmaking really comes down. Like there's, this channel is heavily focused on the technical aspects of this stuff, of like helping customers understand like why their shit takes so long, why X, Y, and Z can't be done the way they think it can, why certain aspects of the process have to exist in certain vacuums. And this is another piece of that, because I have no doubt at some point in time that's probably why the hole cut was created. Someone's like, I could probably save a whole bunch of time by not having to stitch any of these upper pieces together. Figured it out, found a way to make the tongue wrap around the other side. That there's only one contiguous line. The tongue is usually where they hide the hole cut in, and bam, this will work great. Until they realized how much leather they laced. It's like, I have all these quarter hides I can't use because they're not big enough for my hole cut piece.
On a different note, a hole cut, as incredibly badass as it is in theory and coolness, doesn't always look great. It depends on the boot.
For sure.
Also takes away all repairability too.
I'm having a hole cut done, but I'm having it done on a dress boot. I'm having it done on a 6-inch dress boot. And I mean, that's all it's going to be worn for is dress occasions after I break it in. And for that, the hole cut looked bad as shit. It looked awesome. But I've seen some hole cut monkeys that I thought looked like dog shit. I was bowing to them for doing it. But I didn't think it looked better.
Yep, it happens. And a hole cut pattern is hard too. Like, especially because a lot of people want to do hole cuts in like 8-inch, and it's like, God damn it. Like, the whole point of a hole cut is like something that isn't as hard to last, doesn't need near as much stitching, and you want to go and make the fit on it harder than it needs to be. Why? Just why? Why bother? But once again, I mean, the average customer doesn't know. The average customer has no idea that their 10-inch boot's going to fit different than their 6-inch boot in the same last. Why would they think any different? Like, they're sticking the same last in there. What does it matter? They have no concept of patterning and how much patterning affects fit. And why would they, right? And then that's why this information is important. I mean, like I said, it'd be nice if, some of the guys that get tons of views, like your Rose Anvils, would learn this stuff and show it off on their big platform so that people knew. But, instead, the little tiny platforms will just have to tell them for them.
Can't show off something that you're not smart enough to understand.
I have no doubt if he actually spent more than 10 minutes looking at it, he could figure it out. He doesn't seem that stupid.
Oh, he's not stupid. It's a matter of what he's interested in learning and what he has learned.
That's what I mean. It's
No,
lazy.
he's not stupid. He's far from stupid.
It's just lazy.
Matter of fact, he probably would do better if he wasn't as smart. But it doesn't mean that he's studying the shit and learning the shit and doing a good job at the shit. He's just trying to monetize. He's doing a good job.
It's like the Die Hard, as Al says, "You smelling the shit you be shoveling?" Oh, we've all seen the greatest Christmas movie ever.
I thought we weren't talking about Christmas yet.
Well, we're talking about Die Hard.
I watched something. I'll have to get back to you on it because my brain won't pull it. But I watched something just recently I didn't realize was a Christmas movie. I don't remember what it was. It was not Die Hard. I knew that. Obviously, Christmas Vacation. I knew that. And it wasn't Gremlins, even though, because I knew that. Everybody's sleeping on that. You got to watch your Gremlins this year. It's a Christmas movie. There's Gremlins 2 anyway. No, both of them. Mm-hmm. He was a Christmas present in the first one, and the second one he went nuts with it. Yeah. I don't know. I'll think of it. Die Hard, or not Die Hard. Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
First Lethal Weapon.
Very first one. Yep.
Why are we talking about Christmas movies? We're not even supposed to be talking about Christmas.
Well, because I was using the Al quote of the shit you've been shoveling. With the Breakfast Club principle. Deputy Lieutenant Dwayne Robinson.
Oh, good.
We are off the rails.
If you've ever talked to any of these bootmakers on a phone call, you'll find that every conversation turns into a 3-hour one real fast. It's par for the course.
You're not wrong. Reminds me of a subject we had this week with Junior, God bless him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the no, I think everyone's just Audible XL. I don't think that's the update anybody wanted.
No.
There's no update. I wasn't sure for a second whether you were sure what the subject was.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no update.
No.
I'm afraid of getting an update.
Everyone saw the same Facebook post, and I'm sure if anyone's talked to Michelle, they know what the next update is. They just don't want to believe it.
And he loved what he did, and a phone call with him covered everything under the sun and ended up getting you the best fitting boot you could get.
Yep.
And when what's his name, was it Jordan? One of the guys walked into the store once wearing his first pair of Franks, and Junior took a look at his shoes and yelled out the guy's name before he even looked at his face. He just knew which boots they were.
Yep. He usually knew exactly whose boots. Like he could go back there and be like, that's a Mike boot. Don't even have to look at the tag on it.
Okay. Hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Like I said,
long episode. I think we've covered everything. Is there any wrapping up?
Well, I mean, I think for exit, I don't know how interested people are going to be in this. This was just kind of a fun one. We thought that'd be interesting because a couple people have said it. It's come forward. So, I mean, if you are interested, let us know down below. Maybe John can kind of keep everybody up to date with how his journey's going through the course of the next 6 months. I mean, do the usual like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I mean, we'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a different format, but you know, I do think there are enough people interested in stuff like this, and this is the kind of real shit that does actually happen in the industry on a regular basis. So anyway, thanks for coming, John.
John?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See y'all in the next one.
Ancha.